JKB back with another episode, and today I'm reviewing Dragon Quest XI's Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch. Thank you so much to Nintendo for sending over the review copy. Now, let's just start with saying I'm not going to be reviewing the full game. I've done a review on the full game. What I'm going to be doing here is looking at my Nintendo Switch notes, the features that they've changed or upgraded and added to this version, and basically saying, should you go out and buy the Nintendo Switch Definitive version of the game. Now, when this came out for the PlayStation about, 11 months ago, when I reviewed it on the show, I did use this controller. This is the Hori Slime controller. That's how much I got into Dragon Quest. I actually ordered that from Japan, and then, of course, I had to go out and get all these. These are all the Nintendo DS sort of remasters or remakes that they did back in the day. If you haven't played any of these, well, you're missing out as well. But I'm so happy to say that this franchise is finally on the Nintendo Switch, and this is something I've been waiting for quite some time. So I'm going to start off with what's new in the game. Well, the first thing that I'll bring up is that the music is no longer the same music that was in the PlayStation version. They've done something amazing for a lot of people here, because there was a bit of a controversy. Some people liked the old score, but now it's fully orchestrated, and that's something that I think I mentioned in my other review. I wasn't a huge fan of the old music, which was, done on computers and done with MIDI keyboards and electronics and stuff like that. This is now a full orchestra that went in and re-recorded the score. So that's on this version only right now, at least. I don't know if any of this will actually ever come to the other versions, but this is why it's the definitive version of the game. Next up, they've added the Japanese audio for the characters in the game. Now, this is something that a lot of JRPG fans that live on this side of the country, at least, or this side of the world, I should say, this is something that a lot of them wanted in the original version. So having it on the Nintendo Switch version now, being able to switch those out, that's pretty cool if you're really deep into JRPGs. Next up, and this is a major one, they've decided to, for some reason, and it kind of goes back to these DS games I just tossed on the floor, but back in the day, 8-bit, 16-bit Dragon Quest games were Dragon Quest games? Can't speak today, but the 16-bit era was such an important part of video game history, especially with the Super Nintendo and everything that I experienced with that, and Link to the Past and everything like that. For whatever reason, they decided to take the whole game, and I literally mean the whole game. You can play the whole game in 16-bit mode. This means that it's changed a little bit, because now you don't necessarily battle the same way. Some of the choices are a little bit different in terms of the menu systems, but for the most part, it's the actual game, the complete full game in 16-bit heaven. Now, is this something that you're going to sit back and play? It's not as animated as the actual game, which I stated in my review. Some of the animations in this game are spectacular. You've seen nothing like them in terms of the enemy design, but I just feel like this is such an amazing add-on, especially for the hardcore fans. You're gonna lose your mind over this. You play the whole game in 16-bit. And now, if you choose not to do that, they've actually included some sort of side missions that you get into. I don't want to spoil anything, but you do get to go to a lot of the old games. Even if you just play the main 3D game, you do have to go back and kind of experience some of the 16-bit stuff they added. So it's amazing. It's unbelievable what they've added in this game. They've added photo mode. I'm looking at my notes, by the way, and photo mode's just amazing in this game because the art design is spectacular. When you think about a JRPG, you think about this sense of adventure. You think about this, I don't know, it's tough to say, just this open world, expansive open world with towns to visit, enemies to take on, boss battles, gorgeous graphics. This game has all of that, and then of course you can do that and take it anywhere you go now. It's ridiculous. Now, some of the people out there might be like, well, it's only 720p handheld mode. This game is massive. Do you know, how ridiculous this game really is when it comes to how big the world is and how much content is in this game. We're talking 80, 70, 80, 90, 100 hours for completionists. I mean, it's unbelievable. One of the best JRPGs that's ever come over to our side of the world. I mean, this is the pinnacle of design for JRPGs, turn-based RPGs. It does run at 720p, like I just said, and that sort of did bother me, to be honest, a little bit. It was a little blurry at times, and the resolution would pop in. It seemed to be going higher and lower. I'm not sure if it has a dynamic resolution system built into it, but it is 1080p docked, and it is spectacular to look at. And I don't want to waste too much time with this review going over the main game, but I'll just close it out by saying, if you're planning to go out there and get a JRPG, this is the one to get for the Nintendo Switch. I don't even care if you own it for PlayStation 4. You have to go back and experience this. They've done minor fixes on certain things, which I don't want to give away too much, but, you know, for the crafting station that used to have to go to campfires and use, you can now do that basically anywhere. You could just do that anywhere, and it's a spectacular idea that they've just brought over to the Switch version, so you no longer have to really worry about going to a campsite anymore. You can kind of open up that customized area of the game where you're building and crafting things. Again, not to go too much into detail, but there is, you know, crafting in the game, and you're doing these little mini games to enhance your weapons, but it's no longer locked at campfires. So that's one idea that they brought over from the main game and fixed, I would say, in this game, because it was a little frustrating to be able to go back and, gotta go back all the way to a campfire to do this, but fixed it. Totally fixed it. 16-bit, the whole game. Unbelievable. The graphics are spectacular on the Switch. The animations on the enemies are the best you'll ever see in a JRPG. And I challenge anybody to bring up another game that has better monster design. I mean, I'm having a stroke thinking about how good it was. It's so well designed. In closing, I'm going to give this a solid must buy for the Nintendo Switch. If you are even a remote fan of JRPGs, turn-based JRPGs, I should say, this is like a 10 out of 10. This is ridiculous. Frame rate is spectacular. Never had one issue with it at all. And yeah, you know what? I'm going to give it a solid 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and now this is the definitive version of the game. I can't believe I'm bringing it on the bus. I can't believe it. It's unbelievable. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions about the game, I'd love to answer them in the comments below. And if you like this review, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next episode of JKB.